Although it may seem so, humans weren't always the absolute king of our planet. In fact, there was a time when our ancestors were the weakest links in the animal kingdom. Their lives were at the mercy of large predators, who hunted human flesh as voraciously as we feed on cows and chickens today. However, out of all the predators our ancestors had to deal with, 5 stand out above the rest. These were unstoppable beasts that were virtually impossible to escape from, and if you join us this time, you too will learn the names of these beasts that annihilated millions of our ancestors. Are you ready to meet them? Then it's time to begin. 5 predators that hunted our ancestors. Number 5. Prehistoric hyenas. We all have the image of hyenas in our heads thanks to the movies like The Lion King or animated cartoons that give a distinctive laugh to these medium-sized animals in bulky groups. However, 500,000 years ago, these seemingly harmless creatures weren't so tame and calm. On the contrary, they were truly wild beasts that went about devouring everything in their path, and our ancestors were among their favorite prey. At least this is what recent research has shown. The team of scientists in charge found an ancient femur of an Homo rhodesiensis, one of the common ancestors of Neanderthals, in a cave in Morocco. The femur showed deep and severe injuries. The bones showed serious breaks caused by some very particular teeth which, after several analyses, turned out to be those of hyenas. Scientists already knew that some of the first primitive species lived in this part of the world. But now we know that they weren't alone. Our ancestors lived in a tense struggle with them. A struggle that, of course, we lost. Number 4. Cave bear. You may not know it, but about 100,000 years ago, there was a creepy creature whose fossils were mistaken for the skeleton of dragons by the men of the Middle Ages. Its body was so thick and ferocious that it quickly became one of the largest predators of living things, and its name is still hard to pronounce. Its name was Ursus spelaeus, better known as the cave bear, and it was one of the greatest enemies of the Neanderthals. Its origin goes back to the heart of Europe, and its home was in most of the natural caves that we can visit today. Unfortunately, the climatic conditions and the lack of resources and skills, in addition to the danger from the outside, made the Neanderthals also use of these caves as their main homes. This brought them face to face with cave bears on more than one occasion. In fact, much of the story of the Neanderthals in this area can be told through the fights they had with these beasts. It was like this for a very long time, until cave bears became extinct after having been one of the greatest predators of human life. Number 3. The beasts of the sea. To speak of great predators without mentioning what went on in the rivers and seas is practically impossible. In this realm of water, 2 creatures stood out above the rest when it came to hunting humans. The first of these was the Crocodylus anthropophagus, a beast that became one of the first predators of humans approximately 1.84 million years ago. Its very name meant human eater, and our knowledge of it is rather recent since one of the first fossils of this beast was discovered in 2007. As you can imagine, the creepy thing about the find wasn't the fossil itself, but the fact that it was accompanied by the bones of 2 of the first human species in history. However, this isn't the most terrifying specimen of the seas. That place goes to Crocodylus thorbjarnssoni, one of the oldest crocodiles ever found. For most of its life, it lived in Lake Turkana in present-day Kenya, approximately 2 to 3 million years ago. Its way of hunting was very particular, as it hid underwater and waited for humans to approach with their companion animals to drink water. At that moment, this beast of up to 8 meters long emerged with unprecedented ferocity and slaughtered everything that was left at its mercy. Of course, it didn't have much trouble crushing humans. In fact, according to analysis, this crocodile devoured our ancestors without even chewing them. It swallowed them whole as it continued to move across the land, attacking anything that moved. Number 2. Snakes. They are venomous, slippery, and deadly. Nowadays they pose an enormous danger, but in the past they were the equivalent of an unpleasant death. You're probably familiar with the snakes of our times. These beings that rarely feed on the humans they attack and often avoid facing danger. However, 100 million years ago, prehistoric snakes were very different. These creatures were sophisticated predators that enjoyed meat, especially that of primates, as it provided them with a powerful source of food. For them, it was a simple game. No one could detect them. They would crawl along the ground undetected and emerge with their enormous size and venom-laden fangs. Then it was all over. Their prey was motionless and ready to be consumed. As creepy as it sounds, this was the death our ancestors suffered. The first human beings were just beginning to develop their instincts and had great difficulty detecting the presence of snakes. This caused the ruin, as these powerful creatures didn't hesitate to attack and decimate the human population of the time. Number 1. Saber-toothed tiger. The time has come to talk about one of the most fearsome, savage, and merciless creatures our ancestors faced. Its strength was similar to that of a rhinoceros's. Its thirst for blood was infinite, and its weapons were so lethal that it could easily annihilate an entire tribe if it set its mind to it. We speak, of course, of the saber-toothed tiger, a creature whose oldest fossils date back approximately 300,000 years. Curiously, in the places where its fossils have been found, there were also human remains from the same period of time. These would be the bones of Homo heidelbergensis, one of the earliest ancestors of our species, who used bones as hammers and had to face adversity with crude and fragile weapons. However, these ancient humans were excellent hunters. Their intellect made them develop tools that helped them to get rid of predators and obtain substantial food from their meat. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough to deal with the saber-toothed tiger. This creature emerged from the valleys and forests as the true king of the world. Its footsteps made the rest of the animals disappear, but in the case of men, their speed didn't allow them to elude the appetite of this wild beast. The saber-toothed tiger devoured entire tribes. They weighed up to 490 kilograms thanks to consuming human flesh, and it decimated the human population that inhabited the central and north-central parts of what we know today as Europe over time. A truly horrifying feat, although there's one additional creature that was able to surpass it. Zone 0. Time moves on, life changes and the world transforms. What will never cease to be the same as the human race. Since ancient times, man's greatest predator has been man himself. This is demonstrated by several studies carried out by various scientific institutions in the United States. It has been proven that Neanderthals regularly and actively hunted other tribes of their species for food or to strengthen their own offspring. Curiously, humans offer very tasteless and not very nutritious food. To illustrate, a horse contains about 200,000 calories, while a human barely reaches 32,000. The differences are substantial, especially if our ancestors were forced to slaughter thousands of people and then devour their flesh to obtain these few calories. Although this scene is chilling and hard to believe, evidence in Neanderthal fossils has shown that they had eaten human flesh in large quantities, the same meat as other men of their species. Some theories suggest that this cannibalistic diet occurred because of the great famines that ravaged our planet in the past. Others suggested that these were ancient rituals, and a few suggested that they were acts of self-defense. Regardless of the reason, Neanderthals exterminated their species with incredible speed and were one of the greatest predators of their time. This shows that man is dangerous, and no matter what time we are in, the human being is a creature that adapts and transforms. There's no good or bad, only survival. And if you join us in the next videos, you too will discover how far our species is capable of going to survive. Do you dare to discover what we are capable of? Then take a look at these videos.